Welcome, my friends and enemies. Glad you are here. We got an interesting story today. And a lot of it might have already been heard, but there are bits and pieces we can kind of put together to make the whole Lego set. So, one of the big deals, so to speak, is that recently we have experienced, unfortunately, in my opinion, the Ghost of Yotei. And it's disappointing because I was hoping it was going to be good because Ghost of Tsushima is freaking awesome. If you haven't played Ghost of Tsushima, you need to. If you want to play Ghost of Yotei, I pity your existence. But do what you want. But we learned some things over the last couple weeks about how people understand hype. So, hype is one of those things where you gotta get hyped naturally by experiencing, or, well, you don't have to necessarily experience it in itself, but you could experience around it what's going on with other people. So it could be that you have friends that are talking about it. You could have articles coming out about something that you enjoy, whatever it might be. You don't have to actually experience the game itself as itself to be like, oh, I know what this experience is. You can have an experience from things like a trailer. Because the whole point of a trailer is to sell you on the fact that the thing that you're considering is good or fun or useful, whatever the trailer's for. It could be for a movie, for a game, even for books nowadays. Like, you could do whatever. But hype is something where you're supposed to be invested. Like, ooh, I want to play that, or I want to read that, or I want to watch that, I want to listen to that, I want to consume said thing that you are hyping me up on. But then when things come out about what is actually the case, like we're finding out that the main actress for Ghost of Yotei is a bit of a nut job and an activist that is more focused on activism than on the game that she's allegedly participating in. Is also a self-proclaimed Antifa member, as well as her wife. So of course she's a lesbian. And I'm sorry, but her being the mocap person kind of killed it for me, because hypothetically speaking, like, let's assume the story's good, let's assume everything about it is in fact fantastic. It's a Ghost of Tsushima proper sequel, whatever the case might be. Assuming all that's true, her face and that haircut, that haircut, her face does not fit. There are way better Japanese mocap actors you could have gotten. And you could have gotten better vocal actors, because they had an entire different character for the Japanese. Why didn't you just use the Japanese voice actor and then just apply English to it with some other random person that we don't need to know? Because it's probably going to be somebody who's upset. But who uses the English voice actor in a Japanese game? You just read subtitles like a real person. Like, don't be one of those fakes. Just like, I gotta hear it in English, otherwise I can't comprehend the complexity that is a complex game. It's just kind of a weird thing to do. Because it's like, I can't read and hear at the same time and like know what I'm doing. But I'm gonna play this game that's really complicated that I can't do if I have a simple mind. Just read it. It's fine, whatever. Or learn Japanese and whatever. I mean, that might be a little harder. It's one of the more difficult languages to learn. But I couldn't just see her as anything, period. And it was very strange because I'm like, her face is kind of hideous. And when I say kind of, I mean it's greatly hideous. And that's not the average Japanese woman. I don't even know, like, if she's ever been in Japan in her life. But behavior-wise tells me probably not. So I saw some clips about her doing her mocap stuff, and I was kind of dying on the inside because it looked horrible. And I was like, you could have just had an actual Japanese, like, average looking woman. You don't have to make her a smoking hot beauty. You don't have to make her a below average. You just have to make her average. Just like, what do you think the average Japanese person that would be accepted by Japan would look like? Use that. Because I don't think anyone in Japan's be like, oh yeah, she's a real looker, or she's, not below hideous. Right. But the hype is like there, and you're like, well, if we had another voice actress, or we had another mocap actress, it could have been right, like right on the money. And like, well, actually, it would have been better. I probably would have cared a lot less about the stuff around it. Besides, obviously, the devs going politically activism and shooting all their credibility in the foot that basically they had from the Ghost of Tsushima. And then we now know the ending of the game. All right, let's just jump into it. Durka. Sorry, it's Daka, but yeah. The ending of Ghosts of Yotei is the same as The Last of Us 2, two lesbians raising a kid together. Well, that's not entirely true, because in the caption here says, Atsu, they were your father's favorite, Atsu, even as a boy. And then this is, I guess, the lesbian. Now, here's the thing. For one, Last of Us 2 did not end with lesbians raising a child together. It ended with a guy impregnating a lesbian and the other lesbian saying, I'm going to be a dad. And then, still the dumbest dialogue ever. And then we have basically the lesbians breaking up, which is par for the course, fits the statistics. Yeah, words. And then missing fingers trying to play guitar, all that fun jazz, because revenge is so tasty, apparently. But what we got here is two women raising a girl. Not necessarily that they're lesbians. I don't know if they're designated lesbians. I've heard that they are, and I've heard that they aren't. So I can't confirm or deny either of them. But apparently in this setting, every woman can just be a warrior, which does not fit the time period in any shape or form. Like, it's very, very rare for females to be in the military setting, in a military role of, like, actually fighting somebody. And even for, like, ninjas, you didn't have, like, too many koichis, like, around. Like, that was super rare. Like, super rare. But you could argue there are a couple women in Japanese history that are at least renowned enough to fit a role like this. I don't know if they have, like, a revenge story to be built around them or not, but it's fiction, so they could probably make it work. This is also, like, what, 600 years after freaking Jin, I think. Jin's a guy. So I don't understand why they think that would be, like, progressive or whatnot. But I'm also noticed, like, for her haircut, you've got this little bun in the back. None of the advertisement really sold that. It was like she had this weird modern side angle cut. Like, she practically shaved her head, like, look at Karen or something. They should have done more of the top bun, not the lower bun specifically. Kind of like this, to kind of specify she's fighting, but they don't do that. So it is what it is. Now, could they be lesbians? Sure. Do they need to be lesbians? No. No, they don't. They really don't. I mean, as far as I'm aware, there's no romance in the whole freaking like the like. Why would you need it? It's about revenge, not romance. And that was the weird thing about like Last of Us too. It's just like, oh, well, we're trying to see her be, you know, a loving wife to her wife or whatever, and we want them to. We're not here for that. That's not a character development. That's not like necessary to the role. Now, I'm going to throw in a Wheel of Time shindig because that's what I do, as comparison to virtually everything because it's well written, and this is apparently not. When you have romance options like Lan sleeping with was it Muriel? I think it was because Muriel after Moraine, Muriel was given him by Moraine to hold on to him like for Nynaeve. But Muriel sleeps with him. Now, this is a thing, though, that's part of the actual story. There's no actual romance between them. It's just Lan, is one of two other warders that gets to bang her brains out in a very non-explicit way, which is good. But that was a thing that some Aes Sedai would do when trying to preserve a warder's life, because if they lose that connection to their Aes Sedai, typically through death, they usually go berserk. It wasn't through death inherently. It was through a portal that severed that connection. And so he's kind of slipping into not really depression per se. I mean, Lan's too stoic for like flat out depression. But he's not himself. He feels lost because he doesn't have Moraine, who he's been with for 20 years. And he's also falling in love with this younger girl who just, he doesn't know why he feels for her the way he feels for her, but there's like a 30-year difference between them. So it's a very weird relationship for him, but Muriel's trying to sleep with him to get his mind off of and give him new purpose. Because the Aes Sedai didn't really understand that doesn't have the ultimate output that they're looking for. But some people it might work. I mean, warders are still men after all, technically speaking. But then you have things like Rand having multiple women. And they're like, oh, well, why is it all about multiple women? Except that they have an actual role, and they're all the connection between him and the role. So Rand, who is an Andoran by geography, but Aiel by birth, and I guess technically Andoran also by birth, if you keep up with that. So he's both Andoran and Aiel by birth. And he also has what you might consider a soothsayer or a doomsayer, whatever you want to call it, somebody who can see the future or aspects of the future. And all three of them fall in love with him. Well, in Aiel culture, it's normal to have another wife, right? It's just men with multiple wives. I don't know if it goes beyond two, but I think it can, technically speaking. I just don't think it does very often. And the way Aiel men speak, they wouldn't want to have more than two, because one's bad enough as it is. Two would be too much. But in that sense, you have Avienda, who's representing the Aiel and his connection to the Aiel people, and she's also a very powerful channeler. So there's an actual legitimate characteristic reason. She's helpful to him. She guides him in teaching him how to become more understanding of Aiel culture, and to maybe even become a little Aiel himself. You have Elaine, who doesn't do very much because she's kind of a worthless character, and I hate her so much. But she becomes the Queen of Andor, and she basically brings Andor into the last battle for him, which Andor's kind of the leading forefront, which means that everything comes with. Like, it's completely with. So everybody in the South will follow Andor's lead because Andor's a very powerful nation. At least I should say of those who aren't already under the banner of the dragon, like Tyr and Ilion and Kyrian. They're already under the dragon. So then you have Min, everyone's favorite, and she just flat out just loves him, but she's also has a role, and she ends up being the part or the piece that helps Matt bring the Shanshan to Rand. So you have a Doomsayer that's really a big deal, like a big deal in Shanshan. And then you have Matt, who's the best friend of the dragon, who's also married to the Empress of Shanshan. All the pieces starting to click. All starting to click. Yeah. Well, that's why they have romantic relationships in those stories, is because they actually are written well and they're positioned to have a purpose. Last of Us 2 didn't have a purpose. It was just to have lesbians, and it was just to have stupid dialogue that didn't really matter. But it's Western writing, so that's what you expect, especially from Neil Druckmann. In this, you have two women raising a girl. Why? I don't know. Like, the Ghost of Tsushima is about saving Japan from a Mongolian invasion. This is more about like a Wild West hunting down outlaws kind of a thing. It's a very weird. It's a weird, complete differentiation from the prior game. Like it's totally separate. But then it gets a little bit weirder. Endymion says it's actually more than that. Oyuki, the older lady, is the Kitsune, one of the Yotei 6 that kills Atsu's family. Oyuki and Atsu have a weird sexual tension in the game. But it's even weirder because Oyuki knew Atsu as a child while being a fully grown adult herself. And the kid they raise is Atsu's brother's kid. So they found a way for two women to raise a kid that is biologically connected to one of them. They just had to kill her brother to make the ending work. The more you know. That's a freaking weird story. And not in a like, oh my gosh, that caught me off guard and my mind's blown mentality. That's just freaking weird. Like, you're making it so complicated, and not in like a well-written way, but like in a I killed your family, so let's kind of have this weird sexual tension together, and then your brother that's killed has this daughter that we're both going to raise after we killed your brother, and we have this weird sexual tension. Why? But then we get kind of the overall mindset of what's going on in the developers' minds, or lack thereof. And Grums is like, cookbook for Ghost of Yotei so far. So your dev celebrated the assassinations and political violence, and you hired an Antifa member as your lead actor. What to do? Disavow in a formal statement? No, instead, do these time test simple tricks. 1. Take existing successful innovative game. 2. Swap to female protagonist. 3. Make her uglier than a PS2 port, which is true. 4. Make her gay. 5. Blow an entire budget on graphics and minigames, like cooking fish on a campfire. Why? Like, I mean, if the whole story was good and you just wanted to throw that in there just because, then sure, it gives you more content if you care. But people are there to slaughter people. They're not there to freaking cook fish. What is this, Cooking Fish Simulator 2025? Ignore core gameplay, number 6. Just rely on formula without improvement. This is a Nintendo brand thing, by the way. 7. AstroTurf social media and stoke paid shills. I think it's supposed to be AstroTurf, but yeah. 8. Make up sales figures without releasing anything official. 9. Accuse everyone of leading a hate campaign against you. 10. Profit? ? So yeah, we're experiencing a weird timeline. But then we learned some funny things about the sales numbers. Coming from Grums again, because he can see everything for some reason. Why are there so many fake sales numbers for Ghost of Yotei? And mainstream media picks up on these posts and amplify them as fact, which in turn allows Wikipedia to quote it as fact in a huge circle jerk of misinformation, which is why you should never use Wikipedia as a source, by the way. The quote-unquote 1 million in one day figure was also single post by a tiny X account that was taken by Press as fact. I've never seen such a coordinated PR effort around a game. Definitely feels like a funded movement. So this is by Il YA21H. I don't know. Was this Turbo Strato 27? I guess I don't freaking know what that's supposed to mean. I felt like I just read a different language. The Ghost of Yotei has sold 2 million copies in 4 days. The news is fake. Currently, there is a rumor news going around that Ghost of Yotei has sold 2 million copies in 4 days. And there's a link on that post. So this is news is a fake, as the bottom text reads about bananas, and the image itself is AI generated or fan made. The quote unquote source that posted it is blacked out. There's no official sales figures released yet until Sony announces it themselves. The image used is from an Instagram post made months ago. It is not an official image from Sony or anything associated with Ghost of Yotei. And here's your other links. There's been other rumors claiming sales figures about Ghost of Yotei since release, but best to wait for its official resources or official sources. So ultimately, this comes down to you have a tiny account, which I think had like 10,000 or something like that people following it, on a post that had like 700 likes or 700 people saw it, made this claim, and then everybody just ran with it. They just said, "Oh, that must be the true numbers." And people just believed it because, well, somebody said it was real, so it must be real. Who lies on the internet? I have no idea. Maybe everybody who's trying to pull an activistic stunt to make something look more successful when it's related and tied into activism than other stuff. Could be. Just saying. So ultimately, we have a story with a weird freaking ending on a game that didn't add any innovative changes to the series, didn't do much to it. It just turns into like a Wild West Japanese revenge story, I guess. I don't know how much story there's actually there. Because if you notice, all the shills and stuff for that are all going on. Oh, look at this! I can take these chopsticks and I can cook a fish over a fire. That's literally all the posts I've seen. None of them are like actual gameplay. Now, we've seen gameplay through the trailer, so we know like that there is actual gameplay and stuff. But it's literally just Jin Sakai with a female person over that. That's it. I don't know if there's like Jin Sakai's multiple paths of how to do things, where you could be the honorable samurai, you could be kind of a shinobi, or you could be like a ranged type of fighter. I don't know if they did that in Yotei. Everything I've seen about it is literally just the same thing over and over again, so I don't know. I don't think the graphics were improved beyond the PS5 Ghost of Tsushima, so I don't know what exactly you're getting in terms of new content. So yeah, I'm not really sure what players are going to be getting out of this that they weren't already just have experienced by Ghost of Tsushima, outside of the lesbians, of course. And again, we don't know if they're actually lesbians or if they're just two women that have a weird sexual tension for whatever reason, and they're raising basically her niece, because, which is an honorable thing to do. Like, you know, my brother was killed, I'm going to watch after my niece. It's like, okay, that's fine. Why are you doing it with the person who kills your brother? So there's going to be some weird thing about her brother being evil or bad or something, so him being killed is a good thing, despite the people who killed him also being bad. Except for this one girl who are going to end up raising my niece with, because I don't know. Needless to say, it's kind of a disappointment, because I really do like Ghost of Tsushima. I didn't get to play very much of it. I have it on PS5. I had it on PS4. I traded that in to get PS5. And or no, I don't. I didn't trade it in. I still have both of them. I just wanted to pick up PS5 version because I wanted to experience it in the full glory that I could possibly get, and I haven't done it yet. Um, I've played probably like 4 or 5 hours of it originally, and I was just kind of exploring and wandering around. I wasn't really doing anything focused, just because I was enjoying being in a Japanese setting, Japanese people doing Japanese stuff, fighting off Mongols. It's literally how much fun I was having. I didn't even care. I was just like, man, the music is fire. I have the vinyls sitting right there in my little vinyl box, which is this thing right here. I have them for Ghost of Tsushima and Ghost of Tsushima's expansion. They are fire. They're great music. So the music, the atmosphere, the ambiance, everything fits together so well. And I was hoping that we could get that possibly out of Yotei. And then Yotei's information came out, and it was kind of like, well, I think I'll pass unless they really impress me. Now, granted, I'd be playing in the Japanese language anyway, so I wouldn't be having to listen to Erika Ishii, however you say her name, Erika Ishii, I think. So I wouldn't have to hear her voice, but I have to see her face. And with this ending being all like, it seems like it's lesbians all over again, like every other Sony game today. If it was just a normal thing and I could just not see her face, like I could mod it out on PC or something, it wouldn't be that bad. Probably. But the story would still have to be good. And it doesn't seem like the story has as much to it as Tsushima did. So why bother? And especially with the devs being just dumb, why would I want to support them? Like, all the people who did Tsushima are gone. They don't work there no more. They didn't do this. The people who came in took their work, made Yotei with it, and then basically nothing has changed. There's no innovation. There's no update. Nothing. It's just kind of like, we used all of your work and then we slapped our name on it. And yes, it's the same developer as in Sucker Punch, but that's an umbrella term for all the developers. And the developers that worked at Sucker Punch for Ghost of Tsushima are not the same developers that were there now. And people don't seem to get that, because I was talking to a friend of mine, and he's like, oh man, Ghost of Yotei looks pretty good. I love Ghost of Tsushima. And I was like, you are aware they're not the same people, right? And he's like, what do you mean? I was like, the developers left. Just like CD Projekt Red lost their Witcher 3 developers before Witcher 4 ever got worked on. They're not the same studio. Like, it's the same studio in name. It's not the same studio in people. They're different. So just because somebody comes out and says, oh, we're this legendary studio like Obsidian, or I mean, there's Bethesda, there's a whole bunch of other studios, but like any studio that you know of that did great writing, whether it be for like Fallout New Vegas Obsidian, it's not the same as current day Obsidian. You've got all the different groups making things, like the Dragon Age crew. They're not the same crew that made Origins. They're different, entirely different developers in the same studio. It's like a revolving door where you push a whole bunch of people into the building, they make the game, and you push them all out. Not necessarily pushing, but like, as you hire a bunch of people, you shove them in the room, they make it, and they all leave. And then you pull in a whole bunch more people, and they make a product, and then they all leave. And just because they have the same name doesn't mean they're inherently the same group. So bear in mind that just because something comes out and you're like, ooh, I like that studio, it might not be the same studio, but it has the same studio's name. Hope that's obvious to pick up. But needless to say, I'm looking forward to better games and something well beyond this. So thanks for hanging out, guys. Check the description for other content creators to check out, and also businesses that you can support that support your side of the internet and are pro free speech and anti-censorship and all that fun jazz. So thanks everybody for hanging around, and we'll see you next time.